Hello, I'm here with Matt Krotzer, who is self-employed and deals in tax services. Matt, tell me a little bit about your role in dealing with the tax services.
Yeah, well, as you said, I'm self-employed. What I do is I fill out income tax returns, mainly 1040 EZs and regular 1040s for students and people who are just out of work who file simple tax returns.
All right, what made you decide to open up your own business?
Well, I just figured it'd be an easy way to make money. I'm an accounting student at FSU. I've taken these tax classes, and I have all the resources to fill out these tax returns. So in my tax classes, what we do is we'd have, fake people and with fake information, and we'd fill out their tax returns using actual tax information. And I found that I was able to do this pretty easily, that I understood it. And so I figured that I could make some money by actually doing it with real people. So I told my friends, instead of sending it off to their family's accountant, let me do your tax return. I'll do it for cheaper. If it's wrong, then I'll cover the cost for that. And in the last couple of years, I've built up their trust because I've been able to do their tax returns. And I've been able to get more business, mainly through word of mouth.
So it sounds like you've kind of always been good with dealing with numbers.
Yeah, I'd say so. The thing about accounting and taxes, though, is it's not math. I mean, you're dealing with numbers for sure, but there's nothing more difficult in a tax return than just multiplication and addition. So the talents you need for it is more organizing numbers, keeping these numbers in place, and having the recall to say, okay, I don't remember how to do this particular tax equation, but knowing where to find that and knowing how to interpret the revenue code to make sure that it is correct on the form.
What age did you start taking this into your own hands and start making some money?
So I started doing it the spring of my junior year, which was after I'd taken tax one, or actually it was during the spring of my junior year, I should say. I did it during the tax season. So I had about 4 friends, I'd say, who I filled their tax returns out for. Got them to give me all their information in February, and through February to April 15th, the day the tax was due, that's when I filled it out. So I was 21 years old when I started.
Mm-hmm. And because of tax returns and all that kind of being based on a seasonal schedule, or some times of the year busier than others, or?
For sure. So spring's going to be the busiest time because your main tax due date is April 15th. But you can also file an extension, which I have done before, which means you fill out a form, give that to the IRS, pay what you believe the estimated amount of taxes to be, and then you actually fill out the actual tax return, and that has to be turned in before October the 15th. And hopefully the amount of tax for my client is less than the estimated tax, and they're able to get a refund shortly after.
Is it kind of the goal to get a refund, or is it just part of the process?
Ideally, your tax withholdings are going to be the perfect amount. So, like people I'm doing it for have college jobs, working at firehouse and whatever. So basically, every single time they get paid, there's tax withholding out of their paycheck. That all is already in the IRS's hands. So hopefully, in a perfect world, that would be the amount of taxes they owe. Obviously, that's way too exact, especially when I go through and I figure out what their standard deduction is, which is a little complicated for people who are still dependents, which is what most of the people's returns I fill out are. And so, to answer your question, yes, ideally you do want to return. The IRS already has that money, so I try to decrease the tax liability to as small as possible in hopes of getting a check back.
All right. How did you decide on your legal business structure?
So basically, I'd say I'm a sole proprietorship, even though luckily in this type of service industry, you don't need to be incorporated or anything. I do need to garnish all my wages. I need to fill out my wages in my W-2 in my own tax return. but I'm able to do that on my own 1040. So I would say technically I'm a sole proprietorship, but it's just a total self-employment situation.
Is there any sort of special licensing you might need, or can anyone start up with a proper background?
No, and I brought a little documentation about that. So there's a difference between a tax preparer and a tax petitioner. I'm going to read what a tax preparer is. So the term tax return preparer means any person who prepares for compensation or employs one or more persons to prepare for compensation any tax return required under the IRC or any claim for a refund of tax imposed by the IRC. The preparation of a substantial portion of a return or a claim for refund shall be treated as if it were the preparation of such return or claim for a refund. So, tax preparer does not include a person who's merely furnishing, typing, reproducing, or other mechanical assistance, prepares a return or claim for refund of the employer or an officer or employee of the employer, or prepares as a fiduciary, which is like a trustee. So that's different from a tax petitioner. And I'll read what a tax petitioner is. It is one of the following: an attorney, CPA, enrolled agent, enrolled actuary, and enrolled retirement plan agent. So somebody who would be registered with the IRS. So eventually I'll be a CPA and I will be a tax petitioner. But as for now, I lie under the different rules for prepared.
All right. How did you get enough money for startup?
Okay, so really didn't need any money for startup.
All right.
Basically, technically speaking, for the business, I paid for my classes on taxes, and I paid for those books. But what's the great thing about these tax returns is all of the forms are online, and I fill out the forms as they are on the IRS website. They're PDFs that you can fill in. Anytime I need extra information, I can go into the IRS code, and that also is online. So I'd say my startup costs were the cost for 6 hours, tax 1, tax 2, FSU classes, and then $400 in books.
Okay, so other than the actual classes, which you need to have a sound structure for this business, there's not much overhead expense that needs to be covered?
Just need a computer.
Okay. Do you do any sort of advertising at all, or promote your business, social media, word of mouth?
Definitely word of mouth. So I started with just a handful of friends, and I do enjoy doing these returns, and I do want to keep continuing to do them. So I'm having them tell people, hey, Matt can fill out your return. And I mean, think about how many kids in college have college jobs that garnish W-2 wages that are going to need somebody to do their return. They don't necessarily need to pay their family accountant or go to H&R Block. When it's a simple return, I feel I'm qualified to do it. I can do it for cheaper. It's just like any business, it's a win-win.
What do you consider to be the biggest liability in your business?
So the liability would definitely be filling out an incorrect return. And that is definitely the biggest danger of doing what I'm doing. That's why I would never turn in a return that I wasn't absolutely sure was correct. Because even if I feel that I have given due care to the return, if it is wrong, then I could still potentially be sued. So if I get sued, then I've got to go to court and I have to prove
even if you're filing someone else's returns?
Yes, the preparer can be liable for the return.
Okay.
So even if I've done due care and I can prove that I have given my best effort, and the law technical code is you give an effort reasonable to a person in your position to ensure that everything is correct. I still have to prove that in a court of law. I still have to get a lawyer and go to court. So getting sued at all is just, would be not worth the hassle, even if I'm innocent. Obviously everybody's going to make mistakes. A tax return can be wrong. Chances are it won't be a big deal, but if it is a big deal, it can be a very big deal.
Okay. What sort of day-to-day things do you have to do in order to keep up with your business?
So the great thing about what I'm doing is I'm just doing it on my own time. If people want to give me their information, I'll make sure I have it by the 1st of February because I want to be able to have time to give each return sufficient attention. So I can, any time of day that I'm free, if I don't have homework, don't have something I'd rather do, I can sit down and do the return.
What would you say, if any, is your worst experience that you've had to deal with?
Worst experience, well, luckily I haven't gotten sued yet. I'd say I had a very close call of getting a return wrong at one point, and I had even checked over it a couple of times. Finally checked over it for about the 5th time and saw that I had incorrectly, just an easy mistake, added up this guy's W-2 wages because he'd had 2 different jobs through the year, and I needed to add both of his annual salaries into one row, and I'd done that incorrectly, which would be an easy mistake for the IRS to catch. Could have been bad for me. Luckily, I caught it.
And what would you just be under investigation, or can you be sued because of something like that?
So, I mean, a very small percentage of returns are actually audited by the IRS. Very small. So the chance that it does get audited, the IRS would then call me and tell me about it.
Okay.
So that's the first step. If I can convince them, oops, my bad. Let me fill out a new one and turn it in. There's a penalty for that, which I would pay for the client, obviously. That can be sufficient. It's if the IRS continues to press it further, if they feel I was trying to be fraudulent, or if I showed negligence in the return.
Okay. And as we wrap up here, what would you say is some good advice to give someone who's trying to start out in their own business?
I'd definitely say do something you like. I mean, obviously there's things I'd rather do over tax returns, but it's something that I can do that other people can't. So I'd say definitely find something that you have a comparative advantage at, and then that's the best way to start a business, because that means you have something other people don't, and that gives you value, and that gives you business value.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right.